changing the face of therapy.
On both sides.
Both sides of the couch.
Of the couch.
This side and that side.
Yes. Yes. We're trying to get more brown people. For explanation, we haven't explained it in a while. We want more brown people coming to therapy and more brown people conducting therapy. That's probably not the right way to say that.
Yes.
Both sides of the couch.
Both sides of the couch. Yes.
People miss it sometimes. That's okay.
Yes.
I was like left, right.
Right. What are you doing? So to get
Either side of the couch. Both sides.
right. Put you in the middle. Between sessions. So apparently this is going to be an interesting one. We have our good friend.
Yes.
First non-therapist to be on the show.
Oh,
Right?
cool.
You are our first.
Really?
You are the
Okay,
first.
okay,
Yes.
okay.
Michelle Ngome.
Hey.
Who is a connection strategist. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Networking strategist?
My name or connection?
Both.
Yeah, Michelle Ngome, connection guru.
Connection guru.
Connection guru.
Networking
I
with
like
Michelle.
that.
So we're gonna give her an opportunity to talk about her practice, her business, her podcast, all this stuff at the end. But
Her book.
her books,
Yes. S.
all the things, her courses, and just the amazing things she has going on. But quickly, Michelle is a networking guru, a connections guru. What? Is that not true?
What do I do?
You help market people and connect people,
Yes.
and you do a good job of doing that yourself. Like
Yeah, you do.
I always tell people like, man, I want to be like her when I grow up. Cause she'll just send me a random text like, hey, how you doing? I'll be like, I'm fine. What's up? And she's like, nothing, just checking on you. I'm like, oh, is that what people do?
People do that, right?
Anytime I reach out to somebody, I'm like,
Thank you.
Says the
I'm good
relationship
with the
therapist.
clients. I'm good with the couples.
And then peace until the next session.
Personal, this is why I struggle with networking. And I'm an introvert, so I'm like, oh, you must need something. Or if I reach out, I probably need something. She's just a genuinely, hey, what's going on? How you doing?
Yeah.
See you out? What's going on? You know, it's just nice.
People like
you're good
that
at
still
it.
exist.
So I'm saying,
Yes.
right, you're good at it.
Yes.
I, on the other hand, am so confused when people reach out to me and just say hi.
Wait, what's the objective?
Right,
What's
what
the
do you
goal?
need from me? Let me figure this out quickly. But anyway, so you also teach, right? Is that no?
I'm gonna quit today.
What?
Last
Wait.
I'm gonna send that email after this interview.
What?
What if they're seeing you right now before you send the email? You know we viral and stuff.
G's up. G's up.
It's happening.
Wow.
Shouldn't
Wow.
have sent
We'll
on
delete
Monday.
that part. Okay. So,
We can't delete it. Delete it when it's streamed live.
well, not the live, but
This is real life.
okay.
It's real life.
And she has a podcast, Networking with Michelle,
Yes.
which we have been lucky enough to be guests on.
Yes.
And talked about some
Yes.
really good topics.
Man, that was a really great podcast.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. You had some good questions.
Yeah,
Good
we talked
feedback.
about lots of stuff. So now she's here with us on Between Sessions, and Michelle has been very open about being in therapy, the need for therapy, and things like that. And so that's what we're going to talk about. We're getting information from somebody on the other side of the couch to explain her experiences and why it's important. So
Yay, welcome Michelle.
Thank you.
Man, that
So-
was probably also like our most
yeah, in-depth
detailed.
introduction. Normally we like, tell them about yourself.
Yeah, you got a lot of love, Michelle.
That's what happens when you're with family.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
So we're gonna go through some of our questions, and like I told Michelle, and as you all know, everybody that watches, more than likely, me and Elisa will add in our own experiences and things like that, because that's just how the conversation goes. We don't do so much of an interview style as much of a conversation about these topics.
Yeah.
And we want you guys to be included in the conversation. So make sure that you're leaving comments, answer some of these questions yourself about why you have went, why you don't go, what's the problem, things like that. Let us know so we can figure out how to help you, because that's our goal, is to figure out how to help more people recognize that therapy is dope and it's cool and it's nothing wrong with going.
Right.
So, all right, question number 1.
Oh, and we're
Oh,
Elisa Bokey.
my name is Ebony Harris. We introduced our guest.
Yes.
We only can do so
we
much.
trying to be better about it. That's why we have said last week we're gonna be better about
There's
introducing.
only so much we can do in one podcast.
Good luck editing this joint.
I don't edit this one. I don't.
No, it's
I put
just
intro
straight.
music and outro music.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yes.
Cool, cool.
So
Yes.
what you get is what you get.
Hey,
Yes.
All right. So what led to you I'm going to start here, then we're going to kind of go back.
Yeah,
But what
yeah.
led to you thinking that, like, therapy was something that you needed to pursue or look into?
So I've been in and out of therapy like all my life. So I'm
Okay.
35 right now. But even when I was in school, like elementary school, I think when you had a counselor, it was more so learning disabilities. So I didn't have a learning disability, but I definitely had some challenges, right? And at that point, it was kind of interesting because like I was struggling in the class, but I would test out, so I couldn't get the help that I needed.
Right.
So I think I've just, like, I don't consider myself uber smart. I just kind of find little ways to like get over and kind of like do enough. So I think those were like some of my early experiences in therapy. And then of course just struggles through college, undergrad. At Youve, therapy was free, so I took advantage of that.
I mean, I didn't go there, but I know a lot of people that take advantage of that. Yeah.
So, but more recently, I've been in and out of therapy for the past 7 or 8 years with one therapist. So I saw her for about 3 years, and then I stopped, and I started seeing her again last year. But yeah, so the reason why I started seeing her was a series of bad relationships, and I just felt like, you know, I was the common denominator, right? So why am I attracting the people
That's how you know
that I'm
That's how you know
attracting?
you're gonna be a good client.
When you recognize, like, what is it about me that leads to this?
Cause
Yeah, you're
I
already
think-
on the head up.
So, there was things that I was doing willingly that I knew were damaging, but, you know, it's all about patterns, right? So I was recognizing those patterns, and then I remember, so there was a breakup, and then, I don't know how much time had went by, and I'm one of those people that I will literally saturate myself into work, right?
Yep.
Into whether it's I'll get a second job. So I was working 2 jobs. I was going to school full time, and I remember there came a Friday night. Probably just got paid. Got home, calling friends like, "What are we gonna do tonight?" or whatever, and no one answered. And I felt like it was the first time in a while that it was literally just me and my thoughts.
Wow.
And I broke down and cried, and I was like, "I need help." So
I think
that
that's-
started my
yeah.
therapy session.
That's awesome. I mean, it's not awesome that you had like a breakdown.
The breakdown leads to the
Right,
breakthrough. Yes.
exactly. It's awesome
Yes.
because like that's what a lot of people do, right?
Yeah.
We cover it up, we distract,
Yeah,
we do as
right,
much as
yeah.
we can until that moment comes,
Yeah.
and you have no choice because your body's gonna eventually catch up and be like,
Right.
"Yo, you gotta
Yeah.
stop." Yeah,
It was weird. It was really weird.
yeah. It's interesting that you've had these different experiences, obviously in different ways, like of being in therapy, not so much maybe talk therapy. It sounds like when you were young. What was that? What they did at the?
Well, yeah, I think it was a combination of both, right? But it was more the test, right? And I was in Texas at this time in elementary school. But yeah, everything is based off of the test. And I test okay. I'm not going to say I test well, but I test okay.
Well enough.
So yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I think that helps helps to not think that therapy is such a big deal.
Right.
When you've had these different experiences
Right.
with counselors, with
Right.
therapists, where it's just kind of like, oh, that's just a normal job that everybody has. You know, it's not
Yeah.
that big of a deal. Do you feel like your background, you're Cameroonian? Am I saying that right? Okay. Do you think that background had any play in like do people in your family feel like therapy is not a big deal, or do they still struggle?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think as a Cameroon American, African, that we're just very strict and rugged and like hardcore, and my mom's not really religious, but when I was living with my dad and his wife, they were very religious. So I always said when you put the culture and then the religion on top of it, there was little room for movement, for experience.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I wilded out when I got to college.
Then I learned everything.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
But you know, so it's like I never had, when I was in high school, like I didn't know where to go as far as a traditional counselor or therapy, because in high school it's about your grades and getting to college.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's not just, you know, I need help personally.
Right.
So in high school that's a very interesting time, but
It's a tough time.
Yeah.
Being in high school and kind of
And I think we underestimate our high school children.
Oh, 100%.
I would not want to go back to my teenage years.
Yeah,
Like, you expect them to just be able to do it and like.
And it's like you think like, well, you don't pay bills,
Right.
Like,
Your job.
What's your
Right.
problem?
Right.
And I'm
That's
like,
the only problem people have is paying bills.
Why are you stressed?
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
refuse to like teach or talk, and I'm like, they are savages. Like, I need to be amongst comfortable adults.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
But so no, I don't think it was ever okayed per se, but it's not one of those things that I ask permission for too.
Wow.
It's just kind of
I love that.
taking those steps.
You gave yourself permission.
Yeah.
And I like what you said when you had that moment that you ready to hit the happy hour and, sort of like continue numbing out.
Yeah.
And then it was like, nah, I can't,
Right.
And I love what you said. It's like, one of my favorite quotes is wherever you go, there you are. And so you can only keep going until so long. But what I love is that you said in that moment, you said, I need help.
Yeah.
I need support, which not everybody does even in those moments. It's like, okay, well, what else am I going to get myself into?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy because it happened on a Friday night, and then at the time I was working at Chase. So that Monday, Chase has very good benefits. I should probably go back. But they had the EAP, and you would see those signs on the wall, and, I just went through that process. I called the 800 number. They're like, go to the website. And then I spent days, like, looking for therapists just based off of, information on the website.
Right.
The EAP website and then their personal website.
Right, yeah.
And stuff like that.
Okay.
And I'm so glad you said that because we've talked about that before about sometimes even as therapists, going through that. Like I've shared before that I've been in and out of therapy for a long time, love it. And the last time that I was ready to go back, I'm like, I'm a therapist and I'm overwhelmed at picking somebody.
Yeah. Right.
So
Yeah.
It's so true. How did you ultimately decide for you?
So at that time, this was like, 9 years ago maybe? Yeah, like 2009. So at that time, I was struggling with my sexual identity and my sexuality. Right? So those are two different things.
Right.
A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
So, and then I was like, I'm probably going to get lynched for this. But I was like,
wait.
I don't want a black therapist.
Yeah.
Because I don't want anyone to preach the Bible to me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that
I
was
already know the Bible.
Mm.
I don't need you to give me those verses. I already know those verses. I already have some guilt that I'm dealing with.
Right.
And I don't need to come to your office. But I didn't know the rules and, all the stuff that y'all
But
learned.
that's a preconceived idea that you had.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the biases that you have amongst even just black people, assuming that there is going to always be there. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then I didn't want an LGBT therapist because I didn't want them to be like, hey, it's okay, and kind of push me in that direction. So it was really hard. It was really, really hard, but I love my therapist now.
Yeah. But it's good that you went through that process, right, of like, okay, because one, in all honesty, it makes it a lot easier when you kind of eliminate certain things it narrows it down a lot. Just like when you know what you want, it narrows it down a lot. So I think that makes sense.
Well, I think I knew what I didn't want.
Yeah.
And then,
it kind of pushed you in a certain direction, though.
Well, and I think what is helpful also to hear, right, because that's what we're trying to hear as the therapist is what are some of the misconceptions. And so the idea that a therapist is going to push you in a certain way, right?
Or push their ideals.
Push their ideas.
Yeah.
And I would say if you get a therapist, like you get in the office and they have all the titles and that's how, you feel like they're pushing. Like a therapist will not tell you, stay in this relationship, don't stay in it. Right? If you have that, run. Because that's not our job. Our job is not to tell you what to do. Our job is to facilitate the process, ask the questions, provide the resources for you to decide.
And so that's what I love about y'all, right? So, I know a lot has changed in the past 9 to 10 years, but it is about got a shameless plug, creating that content.
Right. Right.
You know, that makes people comfortable. Because
Right.
I'm like, before it's just a website, and it's like, I specialize in XYZ, and it's like, okay, what am
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
What is EFT?
Like,
what is somatic experience?
Right. Or like, what are women issues? Cause
Right. Right. Do I fall under that, or
you know,
I feel like it's a human issue? I don't know.
Right.
even with the relationship therapist at that time, it's kind of like, well, I'm single, so are you seeing couples? You know, and it's just, it was kind of just a blanket statement at that time. But I got very, very fortunate. I see Yvonne Champion Counseling, and I just love her to death.
That's awesome. That's a great name too.
Yeah, right? Very
love that
commercial.
with that. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm curious as far as what for you made that therapist or that connection the right fit for you.
Well, once again, going back to the EAP, I was going to get 5 sessions for free, right? So in my mind, I was already kind of prepared to interview a couple of therapists. So I saw her for free. She was actually the only person I saw, and it just clicked. So I don't remember what happened at that specific moment, but I was just comfortable with her.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think again, it's the what you just said. It may not be anything that you can necessarily put your finger on,
Right.
but the fit,
Yeah.
the relationship,
Yeah.
it worked.
Yeah. I also, earlier you said that when we talk about the happy hour part and just realizing you needed help and support, kind of acknowledging that the type of support that you get from friends or things like that wouldn't be the same as the type of support you would get from a therapist. So being in therapy, what would you say the distinction is between those two? Because your friends are support, your family is there to support, but what is the distinction?
The therapist is nowhere near the box.
Okay.
Like your friend, like especially now, like today, not so much then, but today, like my friends and I, we're very protective about each other. So they're always going to side with me, right? Like regardless of whatever or how objective I try to be about the story I relate, they're always going to side with me, right? And the therapist is nowhere near the box, right?
She's like,
Even though she's getting my side of the story.
I have no investment in this.
Right,
Yes.
right, you know. And you know, she ain't saying I'm gonna go cut him or her. Like,
What we need to do? Tell me what we doing now.
you know, the therapist is like,
That'd be hilarious if your therapist is like, what we gotta do?
I was like,
How we fix this?
whoa.
Right.
So that like, thank you. So
Right.
so far removed, because you know your friends get you hyped. And you're like,
yeah.
It was him. It was.
And they'll have you on such a new perspective. Like, this is dysfunction at its finest. No.
Yes.
I love my girls, but no.
Right.
But, you know, I think my therapist, once again, I think it's understanding those patterns, right? It's kind of like, well, Michelle, you know, this happened in the last situation when you were involved with this person. Or this, don't you think this is similar to the time you experienced with your mother? And, you know, how can you do things better instead of repeating that same dysfunction of, you know, ghosting someone or whatever the case may be? And it's really about, you know, addressing your issues on a deeper level, in my opinion.
Well, and I'm glad that you can highlight also that ability for a therapist to challenge you in a certain way, right? Like where they can give you that feedback and you have that trust with them that they can go there and say, well, you know, this is what you do.
Yeah. And then she'll pull up her nose. I'm like,
Remember 2 years ago.
like that iPad ain't run out of
There you go. Yes. Yeah.
no.
And it's that trust in the relationship and that you understand it's in your best interest and, you know, your goals that you have.
So how do you think, talking about patterns and things like that, what difference have you seen in your life, in your career, or things like that, that could be a direct result of being in therapy?
So I think initially I was struggling with if I wanted to date women seriously. Okay. So that was one thing. And then I just stopped dating. So I stopped dating altogether. And then even with that, I was still struggling with things on a sexual aspect. So kind of bobbed and weaved in that, and then I just stopped having sex.
Okay.
So it's like no sex, no dating altogether. And I think it's a matter, part of that self-awareness, you know, going back to a deeper connection, and just the whole, like, I've always known what my views are about dating and relationships, but literally holding firm to those, right? Because I think sometimes as women we tend to sway.
A little flexible.
Yeah, and it's like, nah, like, this is what it is when you're dealing with Michelle Ngome. And then I think now...
This is what it is.
We gotta cut these deals out. So now, okay, so I stopped seeing my therapist more so on a financial reason a couple of years ago. But the reason why I decided to start seeing her last year, because entrepreneurship is hard, right? And I think people hype me up. If we're gonna be just, you know, straight, I feel like people hype me up. And then there's this ideology of this pursuit of greatness and success. And I'm like, Michelle, you're getting ahead of yourself, you know? And I was realizing that even though I'm not dating, I was struggling with who is trying, friend or love interest, like who really wants to deal with Michelle Ngome, right, and not this potential of
what it could, is it me or is it the persona,
the representative, to be continued,
right? And I was like, I need help, you know, and it's like, and then I have all of these ideas and things that I want to create and produce, you know, on a non-selfish basis, but, you know, I need some money, right? And there's definitely a level of success I would like to obtain. So it was a couple of things. It was, you know, really, really keeping my ego in check at this point.
Wow.
So,
I love that you said you went to therapy to keep your ego in check. This doesn't always happen. You know, I'm just saying.
We're just so like, oh my God.
We're like, oh my God,
can I be your therapist?
I know.
Your therapist is so lucky.
If we didn't know each other, I'd be like, let me give you my card.
You sound like the perfect.
It's a combination of things.
Yeah.
You know, like I have trust issues and then there's the ego thing and like what does all of this mean and trying to figure it out. So,
yeah. I think that it's amazing to kind of recognize, you know, these. One, you made it very clear. I stopped because of the financial piece, but then you start to realize, like, but I got to figure this out. So I got to figure out how can I afford this.
Right.
Because sometimes, you know, we can keep pushing. And that's, you wanted to go to your same therapist. And I think we even had a conversation about you believe in private pay over insurance.
Yeah.
And
But
say it again.
Yeah.
Because, you know,
cash is king.
But regardless, it's there are options out there. And so going with that, like, what excuses do you feel like people make that stop them from going to therapy?
It is expensive. So I think when I was at Chase, I was probably paying a $40 copay or something. And I think she was only charging like $100 or whatever at that time. I was like, that's it. But we're so ingrained in copay,
right?
You know, for I guess more medical checkups, and you know, I got a copay. It's like, okay. So, so that was one thing. And then even now, I think she charges. I should probably say that, but she works with me, okay? But even during that time, though, I think from what I understand, I remember having my therapy session. She said she's like going to stop taking insurance because there's nothing wrong with me. Like there's no disorder. What is that? DSM-V guidebook? Yeah. Okay. So there's nothing wrong with me. So I think she was battling the insurance to get her money or whatever. Right. So I was like, okay, cool. So even then, I'm still working in corporate. Without the copay, I could still afford her. Right. Okay. Right. And then I remember later on that day going to Kelsey Sibo for a checkup. and they were like, we're no longer taking XYZ insurance,
Wow.
da 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 da. So I
Wow.
was like, wow. So,
Wow.
and I'm in finance, so I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, like
Right.
I see how this is playing out.
Yeah.
But so once again, I stopped seeing her, and then even when I picked up, it's just like, you've been a long-standing client. I never had problems with you
Right.
financially.
Right.
I'm willing to work with you.
Right.
You know, and like she offered that to me.
Yeah.
You know, and even now, like, I don't always have the money to see her, but I will find the money. And then it's like, I know I need to see her. I only see her once a month.
Right.
So sometimes I'm like, I feel like I can't afford to go a month without
Right.
seeing my therapist.
Yes.
And it's like, I can't say nothing's wrong or right, because it's just the highs and lows of life.
Right.
But sometimes I'm like, I don't, like, who else can I share this with?
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Like,
right.
who else could I share this with?
Right.
And I just need to get all of this out my head
Mhm.
And without feeling like you're a burden to
Yeah.
like friends
Right.
and family
Right.
and things like that. Like, this person is here
Yeah.
specifically to listen
Right.
to this and help you
Right.
through this stuff. Friends and family, yeah, they're there to support you, but they can't take on all of your stuff
Right.
as well
Right.
and help you. Usually, it's difficult for them to help you in a non-biased way
Yeah.
or anything like that. So, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, well, and I'm glad you touched a few points. Like, one is that there are therapists who may be able to work with what your resources are at
Right,
the time.
right.
You know, some of them specifically will say they do sliding scale. Some of them, like myself, I have a program that's sort of, you know, I have a couple of slots assigned for that. But like you said, what she was seeing in you was your commitment to
Exactly.
change. Because that's a big part of it also, you know, that you're doing your work inside and outside of the office. And so when therapists see sometimes clients like that they're really committed to the change and they're really committed to doing the work, you never know that you might be able to work that out with them.
And you have to ask, too.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest thing, I think, is just discussing it with, like, they're there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And so a big thing, which is the therapist is playing several roles in your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they're playing the authority figure, they're playing the bill collector, they're playing the parent, they're playing the friend, you know, like all these different relationships kind of go through your therapist.
Yeah.
And so if you're struggling with confronting or having a conversation with them about whatever, you probably struggle with that with other
Right.
areas of your life as well.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So if I can't come to you and say, like, hey, I really want to see you today, but I cannot afford the fee.
Right.
What
Yeah.
can we do?
Yes.
What other areas do you not pay, or you avoid, or you know,
Right.
like,
You don't have those tough conversations.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think, you know, and I'm like, I think this is more the entrepreneur in me. And that's another thing. So I have a woman therapist, and she's an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
right? So she's understanding a lot
Right.
of what I'm going through right
Yeah.
now. But I can't say, oh, I want to see you, but I ain't got it right now. And I feel like if you charge $150, you at least need to come with $100, right? Like,
come with something.
you
Right.
can't, like, I only got $25. No,
Yeah.
like, so it's like, at least, like, you know, I've been following you for some time, and I just really feel like you're the person for me. I know you charge $150, but my budget only allows $100 a month, or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
And even, we're gonna pretend like they're not here, right? Okay. So, and I have a chiropractor too, right? And I remember lots of times people will kind of tell you how many visits you need. Like, okay, well,
Right.
come see me every other week. And, and if they're charging $150 every session, that's $300. That's a lot of money. But you need to be like, no, I can only see you once a month. And, you know, and make sure that falls on your payday. You know?
Right.
So-
I do. That is 100% correct. I'll tell my clients, this is how it normally works,
Yeah.
right? When I work with individuals, I like to see them 4 times back to back because momentum. We gain
yeah,
momentum.
Yeah.
that's true too.
But if somebody says, I hear you, but I can't do that,
Right.
I can do every other week, we're going to do every
Yeah,
other week
right,
then.
right.
Because I'm going to work with you. It is true that
Right.
it's easier to do it. And I'm probably going to give you a lot more homework too on those off weeks because I want you to continue to at least have some momentum. And a lot of them that are able to have that conversation with me, they're going to do the work.
Yeah.
They're going to, put in that effort. They'll read a whole book between our 2
Yeah.
sessions, So that's what it's about is you being clear about who you are and what you need and just telling the therapist that and seeing if they can work with you. If they can't, then it's no hard feelings.
Right.
We'll try to help you find somebody else. that can.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Is therapists will have resources as far as I can't help you with that.
Right.
But, I know so-and-so and they're on your side of town and they take sliding scale or they take your insurance or what have you. So we'll have at least, resource to get you closer to possibly finding one and maybe help you get out some of the guesswork.
Right. But we can't do that if you don't have the conversation with us.
Yeah, right.
If you just stop coming to therapy because you can't afford it, then we didn't even get a chance to prove to you that, hey, when you ask people for help, sometimes they give it to you. Because then that's a lesson that carries over into other parts of your life.
If you're ghosting your therapist, you're probably ghosting other people.
Shame.
No shame. Just recognize. Well, because really you can think of
identifying patterns.
The therapy room is like the lab, right?
Like
where
every relationship goes through.
And it's like here is where you get to test out different methods of this project of life that you have outside of here, and your therapist is trained and has the skills to have those uncomfortable conversations.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's not going to be uncomfortable. Even your therapist might, it might feel, you feel that tension? Because I feel that tension. But at the same time, this is what healthy communication is, what we're trying to replicate outside of here. And so it's going to be messy.
Yeah.
And it might be uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean that it's not healthy, right? And so you're learning now, how do I do this outside of here? And so healthy doesn't mean easy. Mm-hmm. And healthy doesn't mean it's not going to be uncomfortable.
Right.
That's a good point. I think when we ran into each other a couple of weeks ago, I don't know, I was running my mouth, but I'm going to run my mouth now. So basically I was saying I don't want to be with anyone that's not going to do the work, right? Because I know, within our communities, we have suffered so much trauma. Mm-hmm. I know me as an individual, I've suffered so much trauma, right? And everyone has their story, but it's like, are you doing the work to get better? The resources out there, therapists, or any other positive influences in order for you to get
reading
better.
Books, having a mentor, whatever, like putting that effort into like yourself.
Yes.
Because if I see you putting that effort into yourself, I feel like you're going to put that effort into the relationship.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Consistent effort.
Yep. Well, and I think consistency is key.
She's talking to somebody.
Yeah.
Just so
she shouldn't have like this.
That was for you.
She gave the sign, right? Well, and I think it goes also to, a lot of times people will say, well, that's just how I am. Like, no. Rephrase, that's just how I choose to continue to be. Because just saying the phrase, that's just how I am, that just tells your brain, like, there's no change needed or there's no change possible. Right. And so I think what you're saying is so true. Ooh.
That wind.
Ooh.
But yes.
Don't say that. Don't say
that. Ooh, don't put that
on. It goes back to patterns, and it's like I was guilty of this, and it's one of those things where if you keep running, the same problem's gonna occur, right? Yeah. The situation may be different, but the root of the problem is the same. Right. Whatever that may be, but it's funny because now that I stopped dating, when I look at people, I'm like, oh, I must have been part of that dysfunction.
I contributed to that.
Yeah.
I think that
you send them an apology.
No,
my bad.
I have changed my life.
I definitely think that that's a big reason why people don't go to therapy is that I don't want to say lack of awareness, but that unwillingness. They don't want to
deal with themselves.
Right. I don't want to have to think about it.
And the thing is, you got to deal with yourself one way or another, right? Whether it's XYZ, boy or girl, whoever you decide to date. But at the end of the day, like, you are going to be alone with yourself.
Wherever you
go, there you are. Yeah, in some capacity, you're going to be alone with yourself.
Right.
And you gotta work it out. If you want to be a healthy person, if you want to be in a healthy relationship, just healthy relationships with family and friends.
And to not, even if you don't, because some people are like, well, I'm fine, I don't have anything, it's, of course, it's everybody else, but even to not get caught up in those unhealthy patterns or get caught up in other people's stuff, like, sometimes you need to talk to somebody to figure out, like, how do I not get dragged into whatever they have going on? In my life, I don't have drama, but I keep getting pulled into other people's stuff.
Right.
It's drama, but whatever.
Right.
You know, but yeah.
No, because I was like, why do I keep picking the wrong people?
Mm-hmm. Right. Like,
and then it's like, what is it about me that I'm attracting?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's going through like, and it's even funny now because I'm like, oh, I'm getting tested. And can I curse my hair? We got children with, okay.
PG-13.
So even now it's just like, okay, Michelle, you gonna pass this test?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because sometimes it's the same elements that kind of creep up, and it's like, have you learned to say no in this area?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And recognize the theme versus like, you know, it's a different situation, maybe a different person, or but the theme is still the same.
Right. Exactly. So what do you think has led you to be so open about talking about being in therapy?
Because no one's doing it.
Okay.
Thank you.
No one's doing. And so the reason why I'm so open is because, and I don't want to say this in the wrong way, but like 9 years ago or whatever, like I have no diagnosis. Right, nothing's wrong with me.
Right.
And even if there is, even if you are diagnosed with something, that's okay too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You know, and I'm just like, I just need help.
Right.
I just need help,
Mm-hmm.
and it's okay. And I mean, I remember even now, I would just tell people like, you know, like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm going to see my therapist, and then like, what's wrong with you? Like, nothing's wrong with me.
That's why I'm in therapy.
Right, you know. And I remember I had met this guy a couple of years ago, and I brought that up. But I feel the more I bring it up, the more people are willing to confide in me.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was like, really? And he's like, Michelle, I have this problem. You think my therapist can help me?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't think she can help you with that, but I'm sure she can refer someone to you. You know, this was before Melanin and mental health came through.
Yeah.
But I love that because, like, even though I'm not qualified to help them, and my therapist may not be qualified,
Right.
just the fact that, but if I didn't speak up,
then that person wouldn't know.
Yeah.
he would still have that problem. And, you know, fortunately, time went by, he came back to me, and he's like, Michelle, I got the help I needed.
Oh, that's amazing. I love
You know?
that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So, yeah.
I love that.
And that was a guy.
Yes. Well, and again, I think you saying it, you don't have to have a major diagnosis or, you know, this really critical issue to go to therapy. In fact, don't wait.
Right.
Don't wait for that to go. I mean, therapy is just, you know, you don't think about going to the spa because, you know, there's some major issues with your muscles. You know what I'm saying? Like, you go because it's maintenance. It's nice. It feels good or it's necessary. And that's just really what therapy can be also.
My stepmom would always say prevention is better than cure. You know, prevention is better than cure. But, you know, people, it'll be, you know, I get surprised. You know, I try to do like a IG story or something before my therapy sessions, and I'll have people send me a message like, what's the name of your therapist? Or, you know, and I'll refer them to y'all, the website, and it's just a good thing.
Right.
It's a good
Well,
thing.
and I think that's also because as humans, we are just so tribal, right? Like if you go to two restaurants and you see all the people at this one and nobody over here, you're like, oh, well, I want to go where the crowd is. Crowd must know what's going on.
That must be the good one.
And so you're going to therapy and more people talking about it. It's like, well, why am I not in therapy? You know?
Right.
So yes.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing because it really is like you then become that person that people look to. Like, so I'm thinking about going to therapy. What do you think, Michelle? Michelle's like, I'm not a therapist. You know, like, go. Like, but they're going to start looking to you to help them make that decision and things like that because you are open about it. But I think it's always, as much if anybody's in therapist or being a therapist, I think to just normalize it and talk about it helps so much. You may not even realize who you're impacting until later on they're like, oh yeah, I went to therapy. I've been in therapy for 6 months after I heard that you did da-da-da-da.
Right.
I feel like that's happened quite a few times with people that I would have never expected to be in therapy, and they were like, oh yeah, I'm looking for a therapist. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
And so just when you are discussing it in a manner of like, it's not that big of a deal. It's what, you know, like, yes, it can be a struggle to find the right person. Yes, it can be hard to figure out like how I'm going to pay for it. But going is the same as going to a doctor. It's the same as going, you know, in anything else in your life that helps you cope or deal with whatever you got going on. That's all it is.
Going to a chiropractor.
Right. Going to class, going to school, whatever. It's just
Mm-hmm.
another thing to help you get better.
Right.
Or do better in the future.
Support your growth.
Exactly.
I love it.
All those little one-liners.
T-shirt queen.
We need an intern and they're like, write this stuff down.
Send me my tweetable.
Right. What should I be putting out after this? Yeah. So my questions went away.
Don't go away, questions.
I guess what I don't remember what I was gonna say.
Well, you had also mentioned with how our experiences are as well. But I think what you're saying is so important because people can see that they don't. We're therapists, so we can talk about how great therapy is, and,
right?
And it is, but you know, I was a client before I was a therapist,
right?
And that's awesome.
You know what I'm saying? I
was the opposite. I was like, I'm a therapist, and I went, and they were like, you gotta go to therapy, and I was like, why? Like, you have to go to therapy. You can't just go.
Sometimes I look at my therapist, and I'm like, I mean, I wonder like, who does she talk to? I hope she talks to someone. I wonder about that sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, and then therapists will have, but a therapist who does their work also is, that's a big part of why I do my ongoing work, you know, is because what we're hearing and just how we see, you know, what we see, that also impacts us because we are human also. I think sometimes people have this idea that we must have the perfect families or relationships, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna, you know, maybe upset some therapists here, but we don't, right? You know, like we don't. It's just like, like, you know, a mechanic doesn't mean their car never breaks down, you know, and they may know, you know, how to fix it or who to take it to, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna be able, like, maybe whatever, like, but you don't expect a mechanic to their car never break down, or you don't expect a doctor that the doctor's never going to get sick, or if a doctor, you know, needs a procedure, they're not going to be able to, you know, do it themselves. So therapists also, like, we have to do our ongoing work as well, because when we're not, and you're in, and you will tell, like, when you are in a session with a therapist who has not done their work, and it's just, it's the energy, and it's like, you can tell when people are telling you something from a book, right? And so I know that, and clients will sniff that out. So we have to do our ongoing work to be able to show up fully for not for ourselves in our lives, but for our clients as well.
I've had people tell me that they compared a therapist having issues or whatever as like a barber with an effed up lineup.
I've seen some barbers.
And I said, that's what happens when you try to do it yourself as opposed to go see somebody else. So yes, as a barber, you probably should sometimes go see somebody else and get that fixed. Because you can't fix everything yourself. So as a therapist, I can't fix everything in my life myself.
That's right.
So there are times I have to go talk to somebody else and work through my issues through somebody else. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, you can, but it's hard to be a therapist and then say like there's something wrong with me being in therapy.
Well, and I think what you will find too, when you have people go into the helping profession and to positions of power, because really that's what it is. That's why we have to check ourselves, right? People go into positions of power in the helping profession for different reasons, and not everybody who goes into it is because they want to do their own work or they want to help. They take it from the position of, I am expert and I will, you know, and it's like, so you want a therapist who's willing to say, oh, I got some shit to work on, right? Because that means they're checking themselves, you know, and we don't sell widgets, right? Like, this is life, and we're not immune to life.
Exactly.
That's real.
That's real. Get me started.
So the next question was, why is therapy dope? But I feel like this has been this whole conversation, but I'll let you answer that. Like, why do you think therapy is dope?
You know, I think it's just perspective, right? think a damn good therapist will bring perspective to your life and to your situation. I also believe that life is hard, right? Life is hard. Entrepreneurship, corporate is hard. All of it's hard. So you do need someone that's in your corner without judgment that can kind of help you in a positive way. And then I also think, I'm going to say perspective.
You said perspective.
I said perspective.
Life is hard.
Life is hard.
Hard.
It's something else, but I can't put it together. But, yeah, just, prevention is better than cure at the end of the day.
Right.
Absolutely.
And something doesn't have to be wrong. And, self-awareness. Everyone is not self-aware. Everyone is not self-aware. And I definitely think self-awareness comes through life experiences. But if you can share those experiences with a dope therapist, it's only going to align you to be a better person in any relationship you decide to have.
That's right. I like that.
Yeah.
You are a dope client. Where's my magic wand?
So tell us about your business. Give us more details, not because I didn't really say too much, about what you do, and then how can people find you on social media?
Right.
Yeah, so Michelle Ngome, I am she, MichelleGngome.com. I operate Line 25 Consulting, where we help entrepreneurs create content that allows them to connect to their audience. And basically, if you're working on your personal brand, it's all about showcasing your expertise. What do you do? How do you make people feel comfortable when they should seek your assistance regarding your business, whatever that case may be. And I've been fortunate to write a book on networking.
That's right.
Network, Navigate, and Nurture, and a second book called Success Undefined. And I'm at an interesting time right now because I got some things that I'm working on that I don't want to say, but they're coming, right? Second quarter 2018 is here.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, but looking to do a lot more podcast interviews and get the message out on just so many things. Of course, a lot of people know me for business, but this year I've been very conscious about speaking up, or not speaking up, but doing more interviews or engagements when it comes to life and therapy, relationships and sexuality, growing up as an African and the challenges that have, taken place. Because all of this shapes me to who I am, and I also feel that impacts my business. So yeah, we're doing 100 interviews by 2018.
All right.
And more books are coming out. And life is good, man.
Awesome.
Author, marketing expert, all around dope human.
That's why I need therapy.
Yes.
You have a lot going on.
I love it.
Keep it sane.
Yes.
And on social media, they can find you at
Michelle Ngome, last name Ngome. Michelle Ngome. Anywhere, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. That's the website. Podcast, Networking with Michelle, where we focus on life strategies with a bit of entrepreneur advice. And my last episode came out last week on HIV awareness.
It was good. I've been listening to that one. I'm like more than halfway through.
Yeah. That's a real episode.
That was a real episode.
You said that too when you were like, I got this episode coming out.
Yes, that was real good.
Y'all ain't ready. And it's funny because I've been transitioning on my podcast. That's why I have both of y'all on there. So it's like little things about me are starting to come out more and more.
Right.
And everyone's not going to catch it. Lose some people in the process, but it is what it is. So,
Evolution, baby.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you for coming
Thank
on.
you.
Here.
Thank you for
Thank
being
you so
here.
much.
You're welcome.
Make sure that y'all follow us across social media at Melanin and Mental Health, Melanin Health on Twitter. You can catch the podcast.
You're going to be at the
I'm
library.
going to be at the library this Saturday from 11 to 12 talking about what if everything you thought about love or think about love is wrong. So I'm doing a 3-hour presentation.
3 hours.
Seminar therapy session. It's not therapy. It's not therapy. Don't want any confusion. But it's free. We're going to be doing some work in there, talking about our own triggers, what has shaped us to choose the people or be chosen by certain types of people. A lot of stuff we talked about here is what we're going to be addressing in there. So I want people to go home and at least have some type of awareness of like, this is why I keep finding myself in this situation. Or this is why I react this way when I have these certain emotions. Those are the things we're going to be talking about. So check that out. It should be fun. I'm kind of nervous. 3 hours is long.
It's going to be good. It's going to be so good.
It's like when I teach. This is why I don't teach face-to-face
You're so
anymore.
good presenting, though. It's going to be great.
Yeah, so check it out. You can find it on my social media. It's a Black University. That's who I'm doing it through. So check out their social media.
There's a link on Melanin Mental Health.
Oh, okay. Awesome. There. It's on Ebony Harris and May as well.
What you got coming up?
I have my free self-care guide.
Oh, yeah, that we talked about last time. Now I see she's starting to put it out. Because I was like, man, that's amazing.
Yeah, if you're struggling with self-care, I have a little gift for you. I'll put it on here also. Yeah, that's what I got. And, of course, in November, the Women's Earth Retreat. It's going to be so dope. It's going to be in Tobago. So that's going to be good. Adjust your crown, retreat with Jay. It's going to be great. That's going to be great.
That's awesome.
Lots of great things. And we're going to be in Austin, April 20th.
April 20th, we're going to be in Austin. The Eventbrite should be coming up very, very
420.
soon. Yeah. Yeah, it should be interesting.
Yes. Yes.
I just might be there.
I just feel like walking around is going to be like, this is too much.
420, we
will
be there.
be in Austin on 420. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Austin, of all places.
Yes.
Thank you guys for joining us. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.